Thank you for checking out crypto.chartguys.com, the source for technical analysis in the cryptocurrency world. We are proud to announce our own crypto alert system designed to give you the most critical technical trading information possible no matter where you are. Keep your eyes on the market with mobile or email alerts for MACD crosses, RSI levels, and even inside bar alerts for dozens of coins across multiple exchanges. New features and proprietary ChartGuys indicators are already in development. Our alert system is very easy to customize and utilize, so don't hesitate to sign up for the most effective crypto trading tool on the market at crypto.chartguys.com. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, OMG USD. We'll wrap it up on the daily, weekly, shorter term time frames. Before we get into the analysis, I want to share a little tip that I haven't really shared in these videos yet. But something that I'll do is if I'm in a position and I'm looking for that position to develop in my favor and looking for the game plan to be executed in terms of locking in my profit and then moving on to the next trade, whether you're on your computer or using the monitor or using your phone, it seems to work in all cases. But if you just raise your voice with some profanity-laced encouragement, oftentimes I find that propels the bulls or the bears, whatever I'm looking for, to hit my sell target. So just an example, you could say, come on, you mother... Bulls got to get it right up on the resistance and things like that. I definitely find that you will see that the price can sometimes, I mean, it all depends on the volume of your voice. If you're really going into it and you really are feeling it, oftentimes you will see the price react to that. So that's an indicator that we are going to be developing, and we'll have something coming out of the pipeline eventually. But getting into the analysis, looking at Bitcoin on the daily time frame. So yesterday's video essentially was perfect timing, where I said, you know, wait for the trend. The trend is your friend. You don't want to be fighting the trend. We had plenty of signals where we knew we were extended. We knew healthy consolidation was likely, but we had no sign of it yet. And of course, all of those signs happened at once right after I put out my video. And hopefully everybody that watches these videos and was in a position exited with a stop loss. Ideally, that was everybody's stop loss being triggered in terms of avoiding this significant pullback. So here on the daily time frame, we have the ideal level that the bulls would like to hold is right here, our higher low. That's the last little daily consolidation we saw. That was 10,159. If the bulls hold that level on the daily chart, they are looking extremely strong. Obviously, the odds do not favor that level holding as we're down at the low of this dump, and that support level's right there. If we break 10,000 psychological support, we have a lack of support established here on the daily chart. We can find some 4-hour levels of support in there. But in terms of the daily chart, we just had a 4-day bull move without any support established on the way up. So I look at the low of each day as a support level. So after 10,000, I'm looking at 9,730, and I'm rounding here, 9,730, 9,342, and then all the way down to 8,520. So I'm looking at these higher lows on the daily. Again, we have one here at 7,851, a little bit of a pause. I wouldn't necessarily call this a higher low because it's an inside bar, or it was an inside bar, but there's a support there at 8,393. But you can see the lack of consolidation between this range. There's a big range here, and that would be about a 15% pullback, more than that, if we dropped all the way through this level. If we are going to see this move evaporate and the bears take back over on the daily time frame without FUD, without significant bearish news, in my opinion, it's going to require a higher low to be found in the mid to low $9,000 range, and then a lower high and a lower low. That is if the bears are going to take over. So again, once we form our support level in this range, which I anticipate we will, the bulls still have a daily uptrend in their favor, and they're still looking pretty good on this daily chart on this bounce. If we see increasing bear volume or things like that, that will definitely be notable. But in my opinion, it will require a lower high and a lower low to put the bears back in control of this daily chart. So just looking at the weekly chart, we have an upper wick forming. This is obviously not a strong follow through of this bounce at this point. And for this weekly chart, let's say this weekly candlestick we're going to close right here, that's a bearish reversal candlestick. For this weekly chart to regain momentum, the weekly chart now has to form a higher low and a higher high. When I'm going through a bounce, you see me, if you watch these videos, I look on the 5-minute time frame for a higher low, higher high, a 15-minute, then I look for it on the hourly and then the 4-hour. And we need to see this on the weekly chart for any kind of significant bounce follow through. So if this weekly chart pulls back over the next couple of weeks, forms a higher low and I doubt it will take a couple weeks actually. Over the next week, I would say, and we form a higher low and then we get a higher high, that will be significant, but that's pretty much what's going to play out in my opinion. Higher low established, and then whether or not we can see a higher high or whether we see a lower high and a lower low is going to dictate whether we're going back to 12,000 or back down towards 7,000. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin. The shorter term timeframes, I'm looking for a bounce right now. We've got a couple support levels to be watching, but it's the hourly RSI at oversold conditions, which has me interested in this bounce. That being said, I am being picky. And because we're in a slow and steady pullback, we're seeing a little bit of a difference in how these bounces and how these pullbacks are taking place. We're no longer seeing, V-shaped dumps and recoveries, which I love. I wish we were. That's my favorite kind of play. But we're seeing these more of a rounded bottom, and we're seeing a bit of a slow and steady pullback again. No all-out dumps. Look at the 15-minute RSI. 15-minute RSI at this point has touched 30 a couple times, but we're not getting any oversold climax indicators from the alert system because we're not seeing enough of a dump. But every time we bounce, we cool off the RSI level to allow for further downside without getting oversold. So we dip down to low 30s, we bounce, the RSI gets back to upper 40s, then we dump to a lower low, but the RSI, because it cooled off, isn't oversold yet. So where I stand right now, I'm saying, okay, if I'm going to play Litecoin or Ethereum, which I likely will, if we get the conditions, I'm saying I'm sitting here patiently. I'm not touching anything until my criteria is met. The trade has to come to me. I need Bitcoin 15-minute and hourly RSI oversold for me to be comfortable scaling in. And here's that hourly RSI already oversold. RSI currently is down at 28. Oversold hourly climax indicator will set off if we were to break, or if we were to head down to 10,000. Right around 10,000, I would estimate that this RSI would get low enough for that oversold volume climax to fire off. But again, I'm just patiently waiting. And until we see the criteria of 15-minute oversold to make me comfortable on an entry, I'm not going to enter. And if the bounce goes on without me, I lose $0 and I gain an opportunity to look back and see, okay, what could I have seen here that would make me more comfortable to make an entry, and just review how the bounce played out. So that's my favorite kind of scenario, where worst case scenario, I don't lose anything, and I'm going to wait for the trade to come to me. And if it doesn't come to me, I'm not going to chase it or anything like that. That's my game plan. So I'm patiently waiting for that to happen. We're going to have to dump down to lower lows for this 15-minute RSI to get oversold. Clear resistances are the tops of these 15-minute bounces. So we have a resistance at 10,657 and most recently at 10,435. So those are a couple resistance levels to be watching. And our support, again, 10,250 is the low. Then we're looking at that daily support, and then 10,000 psychological. That's where we stand with Bitcoin. Litecoin, pulling back, bearish reversal shooting star candlestick with a big upper wick of profit taking on the daily, and then a loss of this higher low pattern. So losing this level was notable, losing 212.45 support, because the daily chart is no longer in a strong higher low pattern. We have lost the higher low pattern. So when we go from a higher low and a higher high pattern and we lose the higher lows, I then look for lower highs and lower lows to follow through. So looking at the 4-hour time frame for Litecoin, we have an inside bar currently forming, not oversold on the 4-hour. We look at the hourly, not oversold here as well. We are defending this support, and we compare it to Bitcoin, always comparing to Bitcoin. Hourly chart on Bitcoin dumped down to a lower low. Litecoin has not. Litecoin is holding support. So right now, Litecoin is trying to see an hourly equilibrium with our low of the dump of 204.71, our high of the bounce attempt, 216.50, and now the bulls are trying to form a higher low just barely by about $1. So if we dump down to a lower low, again, I'm using the RSI levels on Bitcoin to make my decisions. Even though I'm going to look to play Litecoin or Ethereum, Bitcoin is my decision maker, because if Bitcoin 15-minute is not oversold RSI, yet Litecoin 15-minute RSI is oversold, it can get down to more extreme levels if the Bitcoin RSI were to follow through. So if I know the Bitcoin RSI on the 15-minute is down at 22, and the Litecoin RSI on the 15-minute as a result of that is down at, let's say, 18, I am extremely comfortable scaling in. But knowing that Bitcoin could always get more oversold and hurt, the price and the bounce attempt on Litecoin, that's why I'm using Bitcoin as my guide in terms of needing to see these levels on Bitcoin to act on these other coins. So again, always watching the correlations and using a good bit of Bitcoin information to make my entries on other trades. So this is the channel we're watching on Litecoin. We should see a break within a couple hours. Hourly inside bar just formed. We'll get an hourly inside bar break here shortly. and we have to break the lower high pattern. If the hourly or 15-minute lower high patterns do not break, we know the bears just remain in control. And again, because it's slow and steady, these RSI levels are not getting too extended. Ethereum on the daily chart, pulling back most significantly, and Ethereum is very weak comparatively. And we've seen this the whole time, and it's been great that we had, on the way up, we saw that Ethereum was the weakest name of the big three. It was lagging behind. So that told me, don't play Ethereum, play Litecoin and Bitcoin bullish, which I did on the way up, and now avoiding this significant pullback. So we lost the daily higher low pattern days ago. Support was down at 909.10. We're falling right through that. Next levels I'm looking at are 826 and 780 is the most important level for me. And this is going to be the case for all of these big three. The first consolidation higher low is the must hold level. That's 780 on Ethereum. On Bitcoin, that level is that 7,851. And on Litecoin, it's going to be way different because of the breakout, but that level's all the way down at 140.226. So not at risk on Litecoin, but definitely at risk on Ethereum as we're heading down towards this level. So Ethereum is much more oversold. I will probably play Ethereum if I get the criteria and the setup I want. And that's because the 4-hour RSI is extremely oversold. We're down here at 24 on the 4-hour RSI. 4-hour inside bar is currently forming. And we have under 2 hours until that forms. Hourly time frame, RSI is oversold. It's been oversold for quite some time. And we're looking at, again, an equilibrium pattern here similar to Litecoin. We have not dropped to a lower low like Bitcoin did. Low of the pullback is support at 817. High of the bounce is resistance at 849. Higher low is here at 820. Hourly inside bar. So we're watching the hourly inside bar on Litecoin and Ethereum. Right now, the correlation between Litecoin and Ethereum is stronger than it is to Bitcoin. So stronger between those two than they are to Bitcoin. But obviously, Bitcoin is a factor as well. So watching to see if the bounce gets going on Bitcoin, we'll look for Litecoin and Ethereum to break this top of the original bounce that we just saw. And again, it's an hourly equilibrium pattern on both of these names. Bitcoin seeing a little bit of a bounce right now. Let's see this bounce back. 15-minute time frame trying to hold this higher low. If Bitcoin breaks 10,435, we'll look for Litecoin to see a break of its hourly equilibrium up at 216.50, and we'll look for Ethereum to break 849 for that break as well. And again, if you could make you could make a trade on the hourly inside bars breaking. If we see hourly inside bars break bullish for Ethereum and Litecoin, it's not going to be a huge amount of risk to put a stop loss below the low of the pullback at this point. And if the bounce does end up playing out, the risk to reward will certainly be in your favor. The risk, let's just go through a hypothetical trade right now. Let's say Ethereum breaks the inside bar bullish at 835. By the time you make an entry, let's say your average is 840 with fees considered. And the must hold support is 817. So that's a $23 drop before you get stopped out. And in terms of the bullish action we can be looking for, $23 from your entry would be up to 863. And that would still be, let's see, 863 would put us right about here. So if we do break to a higher high on the hourly, that's a very reasonable target. That would be a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Obviously, you want the reward to outweigh the risk. So even anything, up to 870s and 880 would still be a lower high on the hourly staying within this pattern, but that would be a potential target if this bounce were to play out overnight. So the 4-hour oversold bounce would have to get going on Ethereum in order to hit those targets. But again, because we're so oversold on these levels, that is something that we could potentially be watching in terms of a bottom fishing play is what I call that. Also keeping an eye on ETH-BTC, which has been getting crushed in terms of, obviously, Bitcoin has been way stronger than Ethereum. It's trying to bounce here. We have a higher low on the 4-hour time frame, trying to get a higher high to come off of oversold conditions. And if that were to follow through, then that's going to tell me that the bounce on Ethereum is likely going to see a greater percentage gain than a bounce on Bitcoin will. So that's a factor I'm keeping in mind as well. If we break to a higher low and a higher high, the daily RSI is trying to bounce from oversold conditions. So these are all factors when I'm deciding who I want to trade. I'm watching all these correlations and all these charts, and then I establish the trade game plan based on support and resistance levels. Again, I'm not going to be making this hourly inside bar trade. I've got things to do tonight. Got some volleyball to play, and I don't want to be in a slow turnaround bounce play that I can't be watching. I would rather wait for my comfortable bread and butter type play which is an oversold dump and bounce. But keep an eye on this 15-minute equilibrium pattern for Bitcoin, because if it breaks bullish, the hourly equilibrium patterns will likely break bullish for Litecoin and Ethereum. On to OMG. Let's start with a weekly time frame, because this is an ideal setup for an equilibrium pattern. So high, low of the pullback. Perhaps this is our lower high now, and that's resistance at 1978. This is a really good looking chart because of the bounce. The amount of the bounce compared to the amount of the pullback is more than 50%. We recovered more than 50%. I'm just using visualization in terms of an estimation, and that's what I see. Now let's compare it to Bitcoin's weekly chart. The dump and the pullback, got to get rid of all these lines here, but we'll keep that low line, we'll keep the top line, and then we look at the magnitude of the bounce compared to the magnitude of the dump. And I'm seeing about a 40% bounce. So maybe 60% on OMG. And of course, you can calculate this with fibs, but 40% bounce on BTC. And I'm looking at the daily chart or the weekly chart for Litecoin, and that's more in line with OMG in the sense that on this move, bounce for Litecoin, because of all that bull momentum and all that light pay momentum, we did see a move about 50%, I'd say, is the bounce that we saw. So I am more comfortable with an equilibrium pattern with the bigger the bounce. And right now, I like Litecoin and OMG set up for an equilibrium pattern. Bitcoin, not really liking it for the kind of equilibrium pattern I was looking for. That being said, like I said, we could very easily see a higher low and a higher high weekly. I've been keeping this target of 14,000. That would look good for me in terms of a lower high being set around that area for this equilibrium pattern. So again, that's me looking into the future. I don't like to do a whole lot of projecting and guessing and, trying to say this price is going to be here at this time. I take it one day at a time, and I'm a reactive trader. I am not a predictive trader. And so this is something that I keep in the back of my mind, but I'm not acting on it. So back to OMG. Liking the equilibrium setup. If we continue to pull back from here, we will look for a higher low to form, perhaps around $13, $14 or so. So high, low, lower high, then we'll look for a higher low, and we'll be watching for this range to tighten up over the coming month plus. So I'm looking 4-6 weeks out for this pattern to be established. The daily chart is still higher lows though, so I'm not confident that this is the top of our weekly move until we lose daily higher lows and the daily chart tells us further consolidation is coming. The low of this pullback to maintain higher lows is $16. If we break $16, we lose the higher low pattern. Same scenario as Bitcoin. Clearly clearly correlation to Bitcoin, higher low and higher high, lack of support. So here's that zone of a lack of support. We break the higher low that was established here. All we have is the low of every day as support before the next clear consolidation low all the way down at 1084. So we have this range, just like Bitcoin, almost a no man's land in terms of daily support. We can go in and we can pick out 4-hour support levels within this range. I could pick out a support here at 1465. That would be a support level. And then down here at 12. But again, a lot of space within here. So have to be watching for the daily level to hold ideally, but if it doesn't hold, then we zoom into the 4-hour time frame to pick out those supports. So as of right now, OMG is still in a daily uptrend. Bitcoin's still in a daily uptrend. Let's not lose sight of that. We lost the 4-hour higher low pattern, and that tells us that we're looking for consolidation, but we haven't lost the daily higher low pattern just yet. Again, likely to lose it, but hasn't happened yet. 4-hour time frame just to go through like I just did OMG. So there's our support on the daily chart that the bulls are trying to hold. And the next level would be down at 9,730, then down to 9,502. So there are a couple 4-hour support levels I can pick out here, but nothing that is very steady and clear. Also not going to rule out the potential of the bulls holding this support level. I'm laying out all kinds of different scenarios, and we'll have to see which one plays out, but got to be prepared for every scenario. If we dump down and break 10,159, right now, in this moment, I just changed my potential game plan just from going through this analysis. So I'm definitely benefiting from doing these videos as well. But what I'm seeing now is the potential for a head and shoulders pattern setup. If we bounce off this neckline and hold 10,159 support, we could easily see a bounce back up to 11,100, 11,200, and then come back down. And then, of course, if we break the neckline, it's a clear bear signal. But this just changed my analysis because before I was waiting for a 15-minute oversold dump, which would require a break of this daily level, which is highlighted right here on the 4-hour time frame. If the bulls start to shift momentum on this 15-minute and start to see a break of the lower highs and start to form higher lows and higher highs, and then see it happen on the hourly time frame, higher lows and higher highs, that's going to tell us, okay, daily support held, 4-hour chart is bouncing, head and shoulders pattern, have to be keeping an eye out for that. But I would not put it past the bulls to be able to pull that off with the hourly RSI oversold as we are at this critical daily and 4-hour level. So that's going to make things interesting. Again, might not be around to make this trade. But if this 15-minute chart goes bullish, again, setting yourself up in a position to potentially benefit if the bulls can turn this momentum around with clear stop levels below the lows that we have hit at this point to be protective, that's a potential setup. If we don't break the 15-minute lower high, there is definitely patiently waiting for oversold RSI. So at a bare minimum, bulls have to break that level for me to be looking for this potential bounce on this 4-hour time frame to maintain this support. So that's where we stand. Pretty long-winded video. I hope you continue to do good things. I appreciate you watching. Appreciate all the feedback on the courses and on the alert system, and loving, I mean, the courses at this point are their own animal in terms of organic growth. Again, we don't do any paid advertising for membership or alerts or courses or any of that. And just to see them consistently come in every single day, it's really motivating. Again, just knowing that word of mouth and people passing it around in the cryptocurrency community is, driving the interest in these things. It's very humbling. So appreciate you all. We'll see you tomorrow.